said that the phone was about to ring. Hello? Oh, I'm afraid you have the wrong number. But how are you anyway? This is Elwood P. Dowd speaking. I'll do? Why, thank you, my dear. And what is your name, my dear? Miss Elsie Greenawald. Harvey, Miss Elsie Greenawald. How are you today, Miss Greenawald? Oh, that's fine. Why, yes, I would be happy to join your club. I'm going to several clubs now. Let's see, there's the University Club, the Country Club, the Pinochle Club down at the 4th Avenue Firehouse. Hi, Spindle.
Oh. I thought you were dead. Very much alive, thank you. And this full-grown girl is your daughter. I've known you blessed your heart.
Aunt Ethel, what a pleasure to come in and see a beautiful woman waiting for me.
Elwood, you haven't changed. Aunt Ethel, come, you don't want to miss the party.
Yes, there's plenty if you don't like tea.
I do like tea, and stop going at me, you toad. Elwood, dear, what night next week can you come for dinner?
Any night? Any night at all, Aunt Ethel. I would be delighted.
Elwood, some mail came for you this afternoon. I put it up in your room.
Oh, did you, Rita? That was very kind of you. And now, Aunt Ethel, I'd like you to meet Harvey. As you can see, he's a puka. Harvey, you've heard me speak of Miss Chauvenet. Yes, she's one of my oldest and dearest friends. Why, you two look lovely. Well, come along, Harvey. Let's go into the other room, and I'll introduce you to the rest of my friends. Excuse me a moment, Aunt Ethel. Pardon me.
What?
Well, you're standing in his way. Come along, Harvey. Oh, yes. Oh, of course. Harvey, why don't you go on in ahead of me? I'll be along in a minute. Watch your ears there. Aunt Ethel, I can see you were disturbed about Harvey. Please don't be. He stares like that at everyone. But he liked you, Aunt Ethel. I could tell. He liked you very much.
Sister, there's a man wants to see you. Should have heard her yell. She's wacky, all right.
I'll take her up to room 13, please, Wilson.
She's there now. I brought her into the diet kitchen. She's kicking and screaming like hell. I'll hold her if you'll come undress her.
Okay, well, just a second, Wilson. Dr. Sanderson wants me to wait till Mr. Dowd comes in.
Make it snappy.
Mr. Dowd,
Elwood P.
I'm Miss Kelly.
Let me give you one of my cards. If you should want to call me at this number. Don't call me at that one. That's the old one.
Thank you.
Perfectly all right. And if you should lose it, don't worry, my dear. I have plenty more.
Won't you have a chair, please?
Why, thank you. I'll have two. Allow me.
Dr. Sanderson is very anxious to talk to you, Mr. Dowd. Please, won't you sit down?
After you, my dear.
Oh, I'm in and out all the time. You mustn't mind me. But please, sit down.
After you.
Could I get you a magazine to look at?
Well, I'd much rather you look at you, Miss Kelly, if you don't mind. You really are very lovely.
Thank you. seem to think so.
Well, some people are blind. That has often come to my attention. And now, I would like you to meet...
Oh, Mr. Dowd!
Elwood P. Let me give you one of my cards. If you should want to call me this
Well,
way.
Mr. Dowd, I'm Dr. Lyman Sanderson, Dr. Chumley's assistant out here.
Good for you. I'm happy to know you. How are you, Doctor?
Well, that's going to depend on you, I'm afraid. Won't you please sit down? You've met Miss Kelly, Mr. Dowd?
I have had that pleasure. And now, I'd like you both
Well,
to...
later on I'd be glad to. Please sit down, because first of all, I'd like to say...
after Miss Kelly...
Sit down, Kelly. Is that chair quite comfortable, Mr. Dowd?
Why, yes it is. Would you care to try it?
No, thank you. How about a drink? Can we get Mr. Dowd a bit? It's a little warm in here for you, Mr. Dowd. Would you like me to open a window, perhaps?
Mr. Dowd, Dr. Sanderson wants to know if he should open a window for you.
Why, that's entirely up to him. I wouldn't presume to live his life for it.
Now, Mr. Dowd, I can see you're not the type of person to be put off by any high-flown phrases or beating about the bush.
Is that so, Doctor?
You have us at a disadvantage here. You know it, and we know it. Let's just lay our cards on the table.
Well, that certainly appeals to me, Doctor.
It's the best way in the long run. People are people, no matter where you go.
Well, that is very often the case.
And being human, they're therefore liable to mistakes. Miss Kelly and I have made a mistake here this afternoon, Mr. Dowd, and we'd like to explain it to you.
It was entirely my fault, Mr. Dowd.
A human failing, as I said.
Well, I find it very interesting, nevertheless. You and Miss Kelly here. This afternoon, you said.
We do hope you'll understand.
Why, yes, of course. These things are often the basis of a long and warm friendship.
And the responsibility is, of course, not hers, but mine.
Your attitude may be old-fashioned, Doctor, but I like it.
Now, if I had seen your sister first, that would have been an entirely different story.
Now, there you surprise me, Doctor. I think the world and all of Vita, but I had supposed she had seen her dead.
You mustn't attach any blame to her, Mr. Dowd. She's a very sick woman. She came in here insisting that you were in need of treatment. That's perfectly ridiculous.
Oh, Vita shouldn't be upset about me. I get along fine.
Exactly. But she had already talked with Miss Kelly here, and there had been a call from your family lawyer, Judge Gaffney.
Oh, yes, I know him. Know his wife, too. Nice people.
Your sister was extremely nervous. She launched right away into a heated tirade on your drinking.
Well, that was Vita.
She became hysterical.
Well, I tell Vita not to worry about that. I'll take care of that.
Well, exactly. I suppose you take a drink now and again, same as the rest of us.
Why, yes, I do. Matter of fact, I'd like one right now.
As a matter of fact, so would I. But your sister's reaction to this whole matter of drinking was entirely too intense. Does your sister drink, Mr. Dowd?
Oh, no, Doctor, no, I don't think Vita's ever taken a drink.
Well, I'm going to surprise you. I think she has, and does, constantly.
I certainly am surprised.
But it's not her alcoholism that's going to be the basis for my diagnosis of her case. And it's far more serious than that. When she began speaking so emotionally about this big white rabbit, Harvey, I believe she called him Harvey.
Well, Harvey is his name.
She claimed you were persecuting her with this Harvey.
Oh, I'm not persecuting her with Harvey. Vita shouldn't feel that way. And now, before we go any further, I must insist that
Let me make my case first, Mr. Dowd. Your sister's trouble didn't spring up overnight. Her condition stems from trauma.
From what?
From trauma. It's spelled T-R-A-U-M-A. It means shock. There's nothing unusual about it. There is the birth trauma. That's the shock to the act of being born.
Oh, that's the one we never get over.
You have a nice sense of humor, Mr. Dowd. Doesn't need Miss County.
And may I say the same about the both of you.
And so, to sum it all up, your sister's condition is serious, but I can help. She must, however, remain up here temporarily.
I'm Mrs. Chumley, Dr. Chumley's wife.
Good evening, my dear. Dowd is my name, Elwood P. Let me give you one of my cards. If you want to call me at this number. Don't call me at that one. That's the old one.
Oh, thank you. There's something I can do for you.
What did you have in
You
mind?
seem to be looking. You seem to be looking for someone.
Yes, I am. I'm looking for Harvey. I went off without him.
Oh, Harvey, was he a patient here?
Oh, no, nothing like that.
Oh, does he work here?
Oh, no. Harvey is what you might call my best friend. He is also a puka. He came out here this afternoon with me and Vita.
Well, where was he when you last saw him?
Well, he was sitting in that chair there with his hat and coat on the table.
Well, there doesn't seem to be a hat and coat there now. Perhaps he left.
Apparently so. I don't see him anywhere.
What was that word you just said? Puka?
Why, yes, that's it.
Is that something new?
Well, no. As I understand it, that's something quite old.
Oh, really? I happened to never hear it before.
Well, I'm not too surprised. No, that's an interesting little news item, and you're perfectly free to pass it around.
But
Would you care to come downtown with me now? I would love to buy you a drink, my dear.
Well, no, thank you. Just the same. I'm waiting for Dr. Chumley, and if he were to come downstairs and find me gone, well, he'd be liable to raise holy... Irritated.
Well, we wouldn't want that now, would we? Some other time, maybe.
I'll tell you what I'll do, however.
What would you do, however? I'm interested.
If your friend comes down before I leave, I can give him a message for you.
Oh, would you do that? I certainly would appreciate that.
Oh, no trouble at all. I'll write it on the back of the card. What would you like me to tell him?
Well, ask him if he could meet me downtown. That is, if he has no other plan.
Meet Mr. Dow downtown. Any particular place downtown?
Oh, he'll know where. Harvey knows this town like a book.
Harvey, you know where. Harvey what?
Oh, just Harvey.
I'll tell you what.
What?
Doctor and I are running down to 12th and Montview to a cocktail party.
Oh, a cocktail party at 12th and Montview, eh?
Oh, yes, we're going there in a few minutes. We can give your friend a lift.
Would you do that? Why, I certainly would appreciate that.
Oh, no trouble at all. Dr. McClure is having this party for his sister from Wichita.
Well, I didn't know that Dr. McClure had a sister in Wichita.
You know Dr. McClure.
No. Are you sure you couldn't come with me now and have a drink?
No, thank you, just the same.
Well, then some other time, perhaps.
Thank you.
Well, it certainly has been nice meeting you, Mrs. Chumley. And I do hope we get a chance to meet again.
So do I.
Goodbye now. Oh, and you can't miss Harvey. He's quite tall. Like this. Goodbye now, dear.
Large pointed ears? That a hat for a rabbit would have to be perforated to make room for those ears?
That seems reasonable enough this afternoon, Doctor.
Doctor, the function of a psychiatrist is to be able to tell the difference between those who are reasonable and those who merely talk and act reasonably. Do you know what you've done to me? Don't answer that. I will tell you. You have allowed a psychopathic case to walk off these grounds and go roaming around the countryside with an overgrown white rabbit. You have subjected me, a psychiatrist to the humiliation of having to call, of all things, an attorney, a lawyer, to find out who it was who came out here to be committed and who it was who came out here to commit.
Dr. Chumley,
Just a minute. Wilson, I need you. And now, I will have to do something I have not done in 15 years. I will have to go out and get this patient, this Elwood P. Dow, and bring him back. And when I do bring him back, your connection with this institution is over as of that moment. Wilson, get the car.
Yes, doctor.
Pat, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to call the McClures and tell them we can't make it. Miss Kelly, come with me upstairs and let's get that woman out of the tub.
I'm gonna have to tell Cook we'll be home for dinner. She'll be furious. Oh. Wilson!
Yes,
What's
ma'am?
a hookah?
A what?
A hookah!
It serves me, Mrs. Chumley.
Dictionary. Whatever is in the dictionary? There's everything in the dictionary. I don't dare stop and do this now. Dr. Chumley comes down and finds me still here. He's liable to raise holy. Oh, dear.
P-O-O-K-A. Hookah. From old Celtic mythology. A fairy spirit in animal form, always very large. The hookah appears here and there, now and then, to this one and to that one, at his own caprice. A wise but mischievous character, very fond of rum pots and crackpots. And how are you, Mr. Wilson? How are you, Mr. Wilson? Who in the dictionary wants to know? How is
I don't know. She was hysterical.
Well, that's strange. She took Uncle Elwood out of the sanitarium. All she had to do was put him in. Did you find it? I'll be right up. They found it.
Who? Found what? What are you talking about?
Well, when Mother left this afternoon with Uncle Elwood, I went over to the real estate office to put the house on the market. And what do you think I found there?
I'm not a quiz kid.
Well, I found a man there who was looking for an old house just like this to cut up into buffet apartments. He's going through it now.
Now see here, Myrtle May, this house doesn't belong to you. It belongs to your Uncle Elwood.
Yes, but now that Uncle Elwood is locked up, Mother controls the property, doesn't she?
Where is your mother? Where's Vita Louise?
Judge, she went out to Chumley's Rest to tell them about Harvey and to put Uncle Elwood in.
Why did she call me at the club when I was in the middle of a game and screaming to meet her here about something important?
I don't know, I simply don't know. Oh, have you got the deed to this house?
Certainly. It's in my safe. Myrtle, I feel pretty bad about this thing of locking Elwood up.
Oh, Mother and I will be able to take a long trip now, up to Pasadena.
I always liked that boy. Could have done anything, been anything, made a place for himself in this community.
And all he did was get a big rabbit.
He had everything, brains, personality, friends. Men liked him, women liked him, and I liked him.
Are you telling me that once Uncle Elwood was like other men, that women actually liked him? I mean, in that way?
Oh, not since he started running around with this big rabbit. But they did once. Once that mailbox of your grandmother's was full of those little blue-scented envelopes for Elwood.
I can't believe it.
Of course, there was always something different about Elwood.
Oh, I don't doubt that.
Yes, he was always so calm about any sudden change in plans. I used to admire it. I should have been suspicious. Take your average man looking up and seeing a big white rabbit. He'd do something about it, but not Elwood. He took that calmly too. And look where it got him.
Well, you don't dream how far overboard he's gone on this rabbit.
Oh, yes, I do. Had that rabbit in my office many's the time. I'm old, but I don't miss much. What's that noise?
Oh, there was nothing but
I never thought I'd see either of you again.
Take hold of her, Judge. She looks like she's about to faint. Now, Mother, you're all right. You're going to be perfectly all right.
Steady, steady, girl,
Please,
steady.
not so fast.
Don't rush her, Myrtle. Ease her in.
Just let me sit down. Just give me someplace where I can sit down.
Here you are, girl. Easy, Myrtle, easy.
Oh, just the caterer's bill.
Get her some tea, Myrtle. Let Myrtle get you.
He doesn't see, Mother. You're a Judge.
Let Myrtle get your coat off. Get your coat off, Myrtle.
Just let me sit here. Let me get my breath.
Let her get her breath, Judge.
Let me sit here for a minute. And then let me go upstairs to my own bed where I can let go.
But what happened to you, Mother?
Judge, I want you to sue them. They put me in and let Elwood out.
What's that?
Oh, just look at my hat.
But why? What did you say? What did you do? You must have done something.
I didn't do one thing. I simply told them about Elwood and Harvey.
Then how could it happen to you? I don't understand.
I told them about Elwood, and then I went out to the cab to get his things. As I was walking along the path, this awful man stepped out. He was a white slaver, I know he was. He had on one of those white suits. That's how they advertise.
Man, what did he do?
What did he do? He took hold of me, and he took me in there. And then,
Go on, Vita Louise. Go on, girl.
Oh, poor Mother. Was he a young man?
Myrtle May, perhaps we better leave the room.
Now? I should say not. Go on, Mother.
What did he do, Vita?
he took me upstairs, and then he tore my clothes off.
Oh, did you hear that, Judge? Go on, Mother.
And then he sat me down in a tub of water.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
I always thought that what you were showed on your face. Don't you believe it, Judge? Don't you believe it, Myrtle May? Why, that man took hold of me like I was a woman of the streets. But I fought. I always said if a man jumped on me, I'd fight. Haven't I always said that, Myrtle?
Yes, that's what Mother always told me to do.
And then he hustled me into that sanitarium like I was a
What?
crazy woman. But he only did that out of spite.
Well, I'll be damned.
Oh, and those doctors came upstairs and started asking me a lot of questions about sex urges. All that filthy stuff. That place ought to be cleaned up, Judge. You've got to get the authorities to clean that place up.
This stinks to high heaven, Vita. By God, it stinks.
Don't you ever go out there, you hear? Judge, you've got to do something. You've got to sue them.
I will, girl. By God, I will. Chumley thinks he can run an unsavory place like this on the outskirts of town. He'll be publicly chastised. By God, I'll run him out of the state.
Judge, is that all that doctors do at places like that? Think about sex?
I don't know.
Because if it is, they ought to be ashamed of themselves. It's all in their head anyway. Why don't they just go out in the fresh air and take long walks? Judge Gaffney used to walk everywhere, didn't you?
The thing for me to do is to take some notes.
Hello, Chumley's Rest? Yes, it's Dr. Chumley there. Oh, Mrs. Chumley. This is Elwood P. Dowd speaking. How are you tonight, my dear? Say, were you able to locate Harvey? Oh, that's all right. Yes, I'll find him. I'm sorry I missed you down at the McClure's cocktail party. Yes, the people there were all quite charming, and I was able to give out quite a few of my cards. Well, patient had escaped. Where am I? Why, I'm here. But I won't be here for very long. I must find Harvey. Well, goodbye now, my dear. My regards to you and anyone else you might happen to run into. Goodbye now.
6 feet? 6 feet, 6.5? Okay, fool around with him, and the doctor's probably someplace bleeding to death in a ditch.
Well, if those were his plans for the evening, he did not tell me.
Go on down.
Well, Dr. Chumley came and sat with us in our booth. I sat on the outside, like this. Harvey sat next to me, near the wall. Dr. Chumley sat directly across from Harvey, where he could look at him.
That's right. Spend all night on the seat arrangements.
Well, then Harvey suggested that I buy him a drink. Knowing that Harvey doesn't like to drink alone, well, I suggested that we join him. And so, we joined him.
Go on, go on.
We joined him again. Well, we kept right on joining him.
Oh, skip all the joining.
Well, you're asking me to skip a rather large portion of the evening.
Yeah, come on, please.
Well, Dr. Chumley and Harvey got into a conversation. Quietly at first, and after a while it became quite heated. And then Dr. Chumley raised his voice.
Yeah, why?
Well, Harvey seemed to feel that Dr. Chumley, the evening wore on. Why, that's a nice expression. With your permission, I'll say it again. The evening wore on.
With your permission, I'm going to knock your teeth out of your mouth.
Don't you have some old friends you can go play with, Mr. Wilson? Over again. Almost. But I've told it all.
You're quite sure.
Well, I'm quite sure. But ask me again anyway, won't you? I love that warm tone you had in your voice just now.
So did I.
Oh, nuts.
What?
Nuts.
Oh, I must be going. I have things to do.
Mr. Dowd, what is it you do?
What is it that I do? Harvey and I? Well, Harvey and I like to go to the bar. We sit, have a drink or two, and play the jukebox. Soon, the faces in the crowd turn to mine and they smile. They seem to be saying, "We don't know you, sir, but you seem like a lovely fellow." Harvey and I bask in the warmth of these golden moments, for we have entered as strangers, and soon we have friends. They come over, and they sit with us, they drink with us, and they talk to us, and they tell us of big and terrible things that they've done, and the big and wonderful things they intend to do. Their hopes, their fears, their loves, their hates. Everything quite large, because no one ever brings anything small into a bar. Then I introduce them to Harvey. And he is bigger and grander than anything they may offer me. When they leave, they are impressed. He seldom see the same people again, though. Well, that's envy, my dear. A little bit of envy in the best of us. Too bad, isn't it?
How did you happen to call him Harvey?
Well, Harvey is his name.
How do you know that?
Well, that's an interesting coincidence, Doctor. One night, several years ago, I was walking down Fairfax Avenue in the early evening, between 18th and 19th block. You know that block, Doctor?
Yes, yes.
Well, I had just put Ed Hickey into a taxi cab. Ed had been mixing his rye with his gin, and I thought he needed conveying. Well, I started back down the road when I heard a voice from behind me say, "Good evening, Mr. Dow." I turned, and there was a great white rabbit leaning against a lamppost. Well, I didn't think anything of that. When you've lived in this town as long as I have, you get used to the idea that everybody knows your name. Naturally, I went over to talk with him. And he said to me, "Mr. Dow, Ed Hickey was a little stiff this evening, if I'm not mistaken." Well, of course he wasn't mistaken. I think the world and all of Ed, but he was stiff. Well, we talked a little further, and then I finally said to him, "Sir, you have the advantage of me. You know my name, and I don't know yours." Right back at me, he said, "Well, what name do you like?" Well, I didn't have to think about that for very long. Harvey has always been a favorite name of mine, and so I told him, "Harvey." And this is the interesting part of the whole thing. He said, "What a coincidence! My name happens to be Harvey."
What was your father's name, Dad?
John.
Dad, when you were a child, you had a playmate, didn't you? Someone you were very fond of, with whom you spent many happy, carefree hours.
Of course, Doctor. Didn't you?
What was his name?
Vern. Vern McElhenney. Did you know the McElhenneys, Doctor?
No.
Oh, that's too bad. There were a lot of them, and they circulated. Wonderful people.
Think very carefully, Dad. Wasn't there someone, somewhere, sometime, whom you knew by the name of Harvey? Didn't you ever know anyone by that name?
No. No. That's probably why I always held up such high hopes for it.
Come on, Wilson. We'll take Mr. Dowd upstairs now.
I'm taking him no place. You made this your show. Now run it. Let him sit here forgetting all about the doctor. Okay, it's your show. You run it.
Come on, Dad. Come on. Elwood.
Very well, Lyman. But I must warn you, I can't stay for very long. I promised Harvey I'd take him to the floor show.
Oh, boy. Dr. Shepley, are you all right?
All right? Of course I'm all right. I'm being followed. Lock that door.
Who's following you?
None of your business.
Hallucinations, and that other party concerned is a victim of autosuggestion. I recommend shock formula number 977 for him and bed rest at home for...
You do?
That's my diagnosis, doctor. Mr. Dowd won't see this rabbit anymore after the injection. We've used it in hundreds of psychopathic cases.
Don't you call my brother a psychopathic case? There's never been anything like that in our family.
Mother, if you didn't think Uncle Elwood was psychopathic, then why did you bring him here?
Well, where else could I take him? I couldn't take him to jail, could I? Besides, this is not your uncle's fault. Oh, why'd that Harvey have to speak to him in the first place? Of all the people in our town, why did he have to bother Elwood?
Stop putting your oar in. Keep your oar out. If this shock formula brings people back to reality, give it to him. That's where we want Elwood.
I'm not sure it would work in a case of this kind, Doctor.
Well, it always has.
You know, Harvey always follows Elwood home.
He does.
Yes, so if you give him the formula and Elwood doesn't see Harvey, then he won't let him in. And then when Harvey comes to the door, I'll deal with it.
Please stop talking about Harvey as if there was such a thing.
Myrtle, you've got a lot to learn, and I hope you never learn it.
Here he is.
Good evening, everybody.
Oh, Elwood, I brought you your bathrobe.
Why, thank you, Vita.
Well, Chumley, what do? We've got to do something.
Yes, we certainly must.
I should say so.
Yes, it's imperative.
Well, while you're all making up your minds, why don't we all go down to Charlie?
Elwood, you're not going anywhere. You're going to stay here, dear.
Yes, Uncle Elwood.
Stay here, son.
I plan to leave. You want me to stay. An element of conflict in any discussion is a good thing. It means that everybody is engaged and no one is being left out. I like that. Say, Dr. Chumley, how did you get along with Harvey?
We're waiting for your answer, Doctor. What is your decision?
I need to be alone with this man. Would you all please step into the other room? I'll give you my diagnosis shortly.
But do hurry, Doctor.
I will.
Elwood, you stay here.
I would go there with a pretty young woman, a stranger, a quiet one.
Under a tree?
I wouldn't even want to know her name. And I would be just Mr. Brown.
Now, why wouldn't you want to know her name? You may be acquainted with some of the same people, you know.
I would have her out for cold beer. I would then talk to her. I would tell her things I have never told anyone else. Things that are locked up deep in here. And then I would send out for more cold beer.
No whiskey?
Beer is better.
Well, maybe under a tree, but she might want a highball.
I wouldn't want her to talk to me, but as I talk to her, I would want her to reach out a soft white hand and stroke my head and say, "Paul thing, oh you Paul thing."
How long would you like this to go on?
2 weeks.
Wouldn't that get monotonous? I mean, nothing but Bridgeport and cold beer and you pull for 2 weeks?
No, it would not. It would be wonderful.
Well, I can't help but think that you're making a mistake, not allowing that woman to talk. She may have gotten around quite a bit, and she may have some rather interesting news items to share. And I know that you're making a mistake with all of that beer and no whiskey. But it's your 2 weeks.
Cold beer, Bridgeport, one last fling. God, man.
Would you like to lie down for a while?
No, no. Oh. Mr. Dow.
People are your friends. I am your friend.
Why, thank you, Doctor, and I'm yours.
In fact, that sister of yours, she's at the bottom of the conspiracy against you. She's trying to persuade me to have you locked up. Today she had commitment papers drawn up. She has your power of attorney. She has the key to your safety deposit box. She brought you out here this afternoon.
My sister did all of that in one afternoon? That Vita, what a world way to say it.
God, man, don't you have any rights to indignation?
Oh, Dr. Chumley, my mother always used to say, in this world, Elwood, she always used to call me Elwood. She'd say, in this world, Elwood, you must be oh so smart or oh so pleasant. For years, I tried smart. I recommend pleasant. You may quote.
Just the same.
And I want you to take us back into town anyway.
And I told you, I want my money now, or I'm nosing the cab back to town. And you can wait for the bus at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Of all the pig-headed, stubborn
I
things.
should say so.
What's the matter with you?
Nothing that $2.75 won't fix. You heard me, take it or leave it.
Well, I never heard of anything so unreasonable. Dr. Chumley,
But they got it. It changes them.
I certainly hope so.
You ain't kidding. On the way out here, they sit back and enjoy the ride. They talk to me. Sometimes we stop and watch the sunsets and the birds as they fly in. You know, sometimes we watch the boys, but there ain't no boys at all. And then sometimes we stop and watch the sunsets when it's raining. We have a swell time. And I always get a big tip. But afterwards, wow!
Oh, afterwards, wah-oh. What do you mean, afterwards, wah-oh?
Crab. They yell at me to watch the lights, watch the brakes, watch the intersections. They scream at me to hurry. They ain't got no faith in me or my luck. And yet it's the same cab and the same driver, and we're going back over the very same route. It ain't no fun. And no tips.
Well, my brother would tip you anyway. He's very generous, always has been.
Not after this, he won't. Lady, after this, he'll be a perfectly normal human being. And you know what bastards they are.
My family is Harvey, but I've often wondered what Harvey's family thinks of me. Why, there you are! Excuse me, Doctor. You're standing in his way. Well, where have you been? I've been looking all over for you. Let's go down to Charlie, shall we?